Hey guys, Light from here. I want to make a video about everything that's been forgotten about robocraft, especially for the newcomers and recent players, even if you've joined in 2017 and stuff. There's so much in robocraft that's changed over the years, and it was really interesting. I can go over it with you guys. Basically, what I can remember when I was playing in late 2015, early 2016, you had to have this guy built into your bot, right? It was called the pilot seat, right? So basically, the damage routing of the game back then, it convolved around the pilot seat, right? So everything was well, people were playing like it should be played, and then someone came up with an idea to build an ejector seat, and it was so annoying and funny at the same time. What you'd see on the map, you'd see like 3 of these guys on a little thruster just floating around like crazy, you know, and they were called ejector seats. So what this did is that you couldn't kill them. What they'd do, they'd try and find a healer to get healed up, or they'd self-destruct, and then you don't get any kills and score at the end of the day, you know. But they're kind of exploiting that, and then what happened, they brought in the 25% damage cap. Like, I don't know if it's exactly 25, but it was something around there, that if your overall health goes down to 25%, you'd explode, you know, to counteract this type of thing. That then they were still doing it, I believe. All they did is they enlarged it a little bit, just to get above the 25% cap, and it was still, there were still ejector seats in a way. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I remember it. And so what they did, they just did away with the pilot seat altogether. Then you could build bots without the pilot seat. And when that started happening, the whole game changed. So there's a whole bunch of new metas and exploits that players were coming up with. That's a different story altogether. So yeah, that's one of the things that's been forgotten in robocraft. And there was a time where lights could be toggled on and off on the keyboard. So you could use it to signal your teammates about something. It was also, you could see ghost players with the lights shining on them. It would reveal them, you know. Another thing that I can remember is that you could only level up to level 100, and that gave you 1500 CPU, and it was called teraflops, T-flops and P-flops and stuff. So then they came in with an update that increased the CPU to, I think it was 1750. So then you could level up to level 150. And but it's got stuck there. It was you couldn't go higher than 150. Then they brought in a new update that unlocked the level cap, and it was announced that you can get leveled up to level 10,000. And people asked, but it shouldn't be capped, and they're like, no, it's going to take forever to get to level 10,000. and there were quite a few players like me that did reach level 10,000, and they shouldn't have capped it. Another thing I can say, if the caps weren't the 100 level cap and 150 level cap, I would have had another extra 10,000 on the levels. And something else that was really great in robocraft that's been totally forgotten now is the radar and radar jammers that existed. So you'd stack these things, they were in tiers, like tier 1 and so on. If the enemy players had radars, that was these things, and you had these things stacked, it would counteract against the radars. The radars acted, also if you stacked them, you could pick up the enemy on your mini-map, and the location that they were with these things. Now, only if a player had these things on it, they wouldn't be tracked by this. And these were quite low CPU. It made the game really fun. And the tech tree that was in the game, it was really interesting back in the day. You didn't have those coins that you'd unlock as you level up. It was just on your level. Like if you had, see, this is on this. If you leveled up to level 80, you would unlock so much, and for every level you get more CPU and you unlock more stuff. Now you gotta choose what you wanna unlock. But that's how it used to be. Getting back to these, now correct me if I'm wrong, but after they were removed, they were cosmetic versions of them. And now that I'm looking in my inventory, I can't find it anyway. I don't know if I didn't manage to get them or if they magically disappeared, because they are not here anymore at all. And they just vanished. So anyway, the radars and stuff were replaced with the window maker. Yeah. Another interesting thing about robocraft, you didn't have 5 tiers. There were 10 tiers. It went all the way up to T10. As you can see here. I don't remember this. It might have been just after I started playing, but I do remember these cubes. There were different colored cubes, which showed the tier they were in, and yeah, this must be a really old photo. The funny thing about it, personally, I'd say these cubes looked really good. It had a very nice texture on them compared to the plain texture that we have nowadays, which is really unfortunate. The game looked, I don't want to talk too much, but the game looked really good before, and they were bringing in these updates, which and it lost that niceness that it had in the texture and graphics. I don't know how they managed to do it. Another thing that's been forgotten in robocraft is the forums. They used to have forums on the internet where people could comment and bring up ideas for the game and everything, and that unfortunately was totally removed as well once upon a time, and it was changed over to Discord, and there it's just different. It's not the same as the forums used to be. Forums used to be like, it had a channel, topic channel, which would say game ideas, bug reports, that type of thing. Now the Discord of the game is just like general chat, off topic. Now if you go into general chat and you try and say something, the whole thing is just getting flooded with thousands of meaningless comments most of the time, and what you're trying to say is just getting swept under the dust of everything else. So losing the forum wasn't the best, but there must have been reasons behind it, reasons which we don't know. Another thing, the factory didn't exist. That was introduced later in the game. Also, there weren't clans. You didn't have clans in the game. You had a platoon, which is now called a party. They were called platoons, and if you weren't a premium player, you could only add up to 2 teammates in your platoon. And if someone was a premium player, they could add up to 5 players in the platoon. And another thing that changed is the text. The way people chatted. As you can see, this is different compared to what it used to be. The reason it changed is they made it easier for the chat moderators to log messages and warn players if they were misbehaving and stuff. And now this was nicer. It was a much nicer setup, and it's not a thing that changed for the worst. Pretty much after they changed this, people stopped chatting, and the moderators weren't even needed anymore. Pretty much, just like the lecture plates changed. That's another thing that's forgotten. The lecture plates were different. It could take a hit and it would turn black, and after 5 seconds it would regenerate itself. So it didn't just pop off the way it does now. And there wasn't auto heal. I believe the first time auto heal was introduced, if you didn't fire your weapon for 10 seconds, then you'd auto regenerate. Then they changed it again so that if you just don't take damage for 10 seconds, it would auto generate. Now that changes the competitiveness of the game. Like, you aren't forced to have teammates that can heal you up, and you just run in and tank damage to kill an enemy, knowing you're just going to heal up from any damage you take. So it opens up room for exploitation. It's difficult to explain, but it's stuff that I would do during matches. And so it takes away the if there's a weaker player on the enemy side, a newer player, if you didn't have your auto heal, they wouldn't have to worry that you just run in like a maniac to kill them, because you can do it now, and you can just blink out and heal up. It's anti-competitive and anti-fun, I would say. Personally, I'd say, to rant just a little bit, what they did in the game to nerf drones and implement little things all the time to try and counteract drones and other stuff that was fun in the game. Anything that was fun had to be nerfed. Because if it was fun, it meant you were taking advantage or something of weaker players. But everything they did had the opposite effect every time. So another thing props wasn't a thing in the game. That was also introduced a bit later in the game. Now, what they used to do, what robocraft used to, Free Jam like to do, is like if they bring in a new part in the game or a new weapon, it would be insanely buffed for about a month or two, and you'd get crazy designs. Like let me just show you guys what it used to be like. It was you'd have this. Just grab a cube, place this on. It was so buff that all you had to do was build something like this. You build this, and this thing would just twist around all the time. You didn't need to direct it anyway. You just had to keep your focus on an enemy player, and because it was spinning around so fast, it couldn't be hit. It was impossible to hit this thing with anything, and players were exploiting this. And so instead of being fun that you had a new part in the game, it just broke the game. Then they nerfed it more and more until it became completely and utterly useless. Now, it was a good idea, but this was a prop by itself. It did exactly what a prop would do, was move up and down. Just that you could place this sideways. But what you would usually do is just have a copter rotor, and to have side movement, you'd add thrusters to move to the sides and stuff. The props were like I don't know, an afterthought. It was unnecessary. The other thing is rods. You didn't have these types of rods, and these types, and these. You only had this, and this, and these. These were the three that we had, and I think these as well. And the same with the struts. They were super buff when they were released. Now, unfortunately, there's some stuff about these struts. Like, you can't place cubes around it. It would have been cool if you could. They should have thought about allowing you to do something like this. I know there's some problems with some of these, the collisions on these things, and you won't be able to build. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. You can't place this way, but these ones, let me just do that. See, with these they can be stacked, and with these they can't be stacked. That's so stupid, and it's been like this ever since the game was ever since these struts were introduced into the game. So those are some of the unfortunate things about the game. Another thing that's been forgotten in robocraft is that in the beginning, I wasn't around during that time, but it only had elimination mode on Helion Crater, I think it was, and then they brought in the battle arena with the towers. The towers are another thing that's been forgotten. And then you had league matches, right? So because what was happening, you had very competitive players, and they were trying to separate the competitive players with the casual players by having a battle arena mode and a league match mode. So if you played in the league, you'd get an MMR rating, and what I think made that fail was that they capped it at 3000 MMR. So some players like myself, after the first 2 days of a month, because they were reset every month, you have your 3000 MMR by just playing in league. Like, and once you had your 3k, you know, you just didn't want to play in the league anymore. You just scoot over to battle arena because you had some teams who would play with full parties and exploit the game, so you didn't want to lose your MMR because of those types of things. And so that's something that's been forgotten in the game. You don't have MMR or ELO measurements anymore. More stuff that's come and gone. Another thing that's been forgotten in the game is that maps, they were all the maps in the game. Some of the new players don't know, but the game used to play 10 versus 10 in the public matches. So, and that was changed to 5, and people liked it, you know, because that way, if you had a platoon of 5 players, you could max it out in a match. And or was it 8 players? I can't remember exactly now. And yeah, the thing is just the maps that we lost. They were beautiful maps. I don't want to say it, but I think they were prettier than these maps we have now. These maps are smaller. It was pretty much, it came out at around the same time when it was changed over to 5 players per team. So they introduced these smaller maps because the teams were now going to be smaller. The graphics and stuff was better on the older maps. They do still exist, like Helium Crater, which you can find in the custom match, but not all of them are there anymore. Another thing that people forget about, I would say, a lot of people don't know about, is those older maps had snow or iced dams, and if you had a tank or a car and you went over it, it would slide. It had like a sliding effect on these on the ice, on the snow maps. That yeah, and that was just changed and removed. As I said, the game didn't progress, and it's progressing backwards for me all the years. And another thing that's been forgotten in robocraft, you can find these videos on YouTube of the old videos of robocraft. Nanos used to work like lasers, laser beams, that if you held right click on it would spread out. Like if you had your teammate there and your teammate there, if you held left click down, it would split the beams up and it would heal both your teammates at the same time. Obviously it was scattered, so in it, the rate of heal was scattered depending on how you healed. If you wanted to heal a specific player, you'd hold down left click and you just focus on healing him all the time. Another thing it could do was it damaged enemies. Like the beams would turn red and do damage units, but you couldn't auto target that with right click. You had to left click and focus on so as a healer you could either fight a little bit if you had to, where you could heal up your teammates. The problem was though the towers which used to exist. If you focused on the lines, the separator lines on the towers with nanos, it just destroyed them quite fast, and I think that's one of the reasons they changed it. And I wonder if someone has ever made a tower art. No, they have not. No. And back in the day, you could play megabots in elimination mode. Basically, there was one megabot per team, and they'd be followed by a bunch of healers. And I'm surprised how much the game has changed. Like the elimination mode back then, it would have been similar to this, where you could choose elimination, team deathmatch, or battle arena, or league arena. And the elimination mode back then was completely different to what you'd be playing now. It was almost like an entirely different game altogether. And so hopefully things can be better in Robocraft 2. Yeah, that's about how much I can remember about the game throughout the years. And if there's anything I've left out, or just post some comments, let me know. And thanks. See you later.